what a beautiful bird flying! Wait a minute. That reminds me of the flight of the Earls in 1607. After that, in Ireland, the King James I started the plantation of Ulster. And that was when the Scottish Presbyterians came along.
The 1640s were very confusing years for Ireland, mainly because everyone was waging war against each other. In Ireland, as a response to the Ulster plantation, Philip O'Neill, one of the Gaelic lords, raised against the Englishmen and drove them away from the country or even murdered them. In 1642, the old English Catholics joined in together with the Irish Gaelic lords and formed the Confederation of Kenny. It was both religious and politically established. And its main purpose was to act as a temporary government for Ireland, while in England there was waging civil war. The Confederation ultimately ended with Cromwell putting an end to it as a revenge to what happened to the events in 1641.
So in 1740 and 1741, Ireland faced their first famine. What happened was that a cold front came over the country like a frost. Some people describe it as a mini ice age, and left the country starving as none of the crops, as all the crops had died. So what happened was that Ireland, the government, was a sole government. It was not part of the UK at the time. They had to come up with ways to help the people out and help the poor people out. So they lowered the price of corn, and the Catholic Church collected charity and gave out common free meals to people that needed it. And so that way, even though the population decreased by 13%, it probably could have been a lot worse if they didn't do anything.
So, the Constitution of 1782. The Constitution of 1782 is a series of legal changes which freed the Parliament of Ireland. The new constitutional arrangements proved short-lived. By the Acts of Union in 1801, the Parliament of Ireland was abolished, and the Kingdom of Ireland absorbed into the new United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. That's interesting, huh?
Honey, listen to this. The Irish Rebellion of 1798 was an uprising against British rule in Ireland. The United Irishmen, a Republican revolutionary group influenced by the ideas of the American and French revolutions, were the main organizing force behind the rebellion, led by the Presbyterians angry at being shut out of power, by the Anglican establishment, and joined by the Catholics, who made up the majority of the populations. A French army which landed in County Mayo in support of the rebels was overwhelmed by British and Loyalist forces. 10,000 to 30,000 deaths. Oh shit.
There weren't many rights that Roman Catholic people had in Ireland. They had many restrictions. So it was time for freedom. It all culminated in 1829 when Catholics' Emancipation Act was made.
Okay, so in 1845 to 1849, Ireland faced their second famine, and this was because of a disease that swept through the potato crops called blight. The nation decreased from 20 to 25% in just that amount of time, and that was because of death and also because of immigration to other countries. Now, Ireland was no longer a sole nation. They were a part of the Union, the United Kingdom of England and Ireland, so they called on England for help. However, England wasn't very helpful. They instead, the English landowners raised the price of rent for the Irish tenants and made laws that allowed English landowners to evict Irish tenants whenever they wanted, even if they had no money and were starving from a famine. And these kinds of actions has led to lots of hatred and political hatred for many years to come.
Fenian Rising of 1867. Very early in the morning of March 5th, 1867, many thousands of young men set off from Dublin towards the hills overlooking the village of Charlotte. The young men, who may have numbered up to 8,000, were Fenians, members of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and this was the day of a long planned for insurrection aimed at toppling British rule and establishing an Irish Republic. The Fenians issued a proclamation of the Irish Republic asking for the liberation of Ireland and its people and the separation of church and state. By the following day, the rising was over and the Fenians, over 10,000 men strong, had been dispersed and were being hunted through the hills by the Irish constabulary and the British army. What do you think about that, Lou? Huh? Not fair, is it?
Honey, what about this? The Government of Ireland Bill 1886, commonly known as the First Home Rule Bill, was the first major attempt made by British government to enact a law creating home rule for part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. It was introduced on 8th of April 1886 by Liberal Prime Minister William Gladstone to create a devolved assembly for Ireland which would govern Ireland in specified areas. Willie, look at that.